Your Majesty, Queen Sylvia, Your Royal Highness, Princess Madeline, Deputy Mayor Berry, Excellencies of many wonderful global organizations, colleagues, friends, students, Columbia community. It's wonderful to be together this morning in this World Leaders Forum on the topic of children in the age of sustainable development. And I can tell you, it's hard to imagine a more wonderful gathering of leaders in the cause of children than we have today. You will see shortly an amazing display of leadership, sensitivity, and determination. I have a general theorem in this world that anything associated with Sweden is great. Sweden has a way of both charming us and inspiring us and directing us in good values and a good direction. So it's a special joy and great honor to have Your Majesty and Your Royal Highness with us today. Of course, this was put together by our own Swedish royalty, Johanna Rubinstein. Where are you? My colleague. Johanna is Assistant Director of the Earth Institute and our global ambassador and representative to the United Nations and all causes. And when you see the incredible amalgamation of expertise and heart and leadership here, this is Johanna's world and network, and we're really grateful for bringing us all together in this way. We're here at a very important, special time for the world. Obviously, it's a time of a lot of concern and anxiety for all of us because we're confronting many harrowing challenges and a lot of instability, a massive new epidemic in West Africa, spreading war. And so we're here with a lot of concern. But we're also here with hope, and with special hope made possible by the calendar that has put several crucial development objectives onto a track over the coming year, making 2015 a very special year. And in a way, that year of negotiation that we hope will bring to fruition many important initiatives that we'll discuss today started this week at the General Assembly. There are 3 major summits next year to set the so-called post-2015 agenda. And even before those 3, an extraordinarily important gathering that will help set the stage for our agenda and help to create that new development agenda. So next September, 1 year from today, the world is to adopt new sustainable development goals to guide us over the coming generation, to follow the Millennium Development Goal era with an even more holistic and a bolder agenda, building on the accomplishments to date. Before that, in July, will be a very important summit on financing for development that will be the underpinning for the Sustainable Development Goals. And in December of next year will be, unfortunately and fortunately, the last chance we have to keep the climate safe at the so-called COP21 conference on climate change in Paris, where our remaining hopes of staying below the 2 degrees Celsius warming can be realized if there's global boldness. So that is a remarkable agenda It's all about the future. It's all about children. It's all about the reason we are here today. And before those three summits is an amazing opportunity made possible by the government of Korea and UNESCO. And you'll hear more about this momentarily because we have the leader of UNESCO with us, a most remarkable leader. And that is a World Conference on Education next May, in which many of the issues that we talk about today, early childhood development, quality of education, universal access to education, health and education, and many other aspirations for a world in which every child has a chance can take hold. And we heard at the General Assembly this week President Park of Korea make a very, very strong pledge and commitment of Korea's leadership in that summit next spring and in all of these issues. So in this sense, we're meeting at a moment of tremendous possibility, and that makes it all the more remarkable that we have the leaders that we have here. Our intention is not only to reflect together, to brainstorm together, but also to conclude with a powerful declaration of a way forward, reflecting the remarkable group that we have assembled today. So without further ado, it is my absolute phenomenal joy and honor to introduce Your Majesty, Queen Sylvia. You greeted us recently at the Royal Palace in Stockholm, which was a thrill. It is a great thrill for me to be able to welcome you to Columbia's Palace on the middle of our campus, Low Library. This is where we gather for our highest occasions, and you, of course, represent the highest of the highest when we are able to welcome you here. So please, may I welcome you to the podium.
What a charming introduction. Thank you. Good morning, everybody, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, faculty and students. It is my great pleasure to be with you today in this beautiful library at Columbia University in the city of New York. I'm happy, I'm very proud to be part of this gathering and to have a chance to tell you how my family in various ways is working on contribution to a happier childhood for children in many parts of the world. 15 years ago, I established the World Childhood Foundation. Its work is based on the articles of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child and focus on prevention of sexual abuse and exploitation of children. In 2010, His Majesty the King of Sweden and myself launched the Global Child Forum, a new platform to promote engagement of the private sector in children's causes. Today I have the privilege to be at this event that is co-convened by the Global Child Forum together with the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network and the Earth Institute of Columbia University. With me is one of my 3 children, Princess Madeleine, who now for some years has been working at the World Childhood Foundation and who recently launched a new campaign, the Thank You campaign, using social media to engage today's youth in children's causes and raising awareness about the work of childhood. It's fun. Just try. thankyou.org. And you can thank somebody for a happy childhood with a song. But how did it all start? It was on one of my trips to Brazil almost 20 years ago that I met a young boy in the favelas in Rio. He very proudly showed me his home, a box where he could barely fit to sleep and where he kept all of his belongings. The box was his comfort zone and his safe place. It was his little universe. As I left Brazil, I could not stop thinking of him. The rain was pouring down, and I was wondering what would happen to his home and if he would have to find a new, safe place. It was at this moment the idea of childhood was born. When I returned home, haunted by the picture of the little boy living alone in a paper box on the street, exposed to all possible risks, including the risk of sexual abuse and exploitation, I decided to start this foundation. I wanted to lend my voice to speak about children at risk and the importance of a healthy and happy childhood. I wanted to support development and implementation of programs aiming at preventing abuse of children or their rehabilitation. Today, childhood supports programs in 16 countries. In Brazil, I was lucky to be joined by my good friend Rosana Camargo, who started Childhood Brazil. Rosana is here today, and I want to thank her for her leadership in improving children's lives in Brazil. Childhood Brazil has pioneered and scaled up an innovative approach to protection of children. By working with 1,500 transportation companies, the foundation has trained the truck drivers to become protectors of children instead of perpetrators. It also led campaigns to prevent abuse of children at risk during the last World Cup. In the US, Childhood is supporting a number of projects, including teenage mothers and legal services for children. Other models and methods where Childhood has managed to lift the support to extraordinary heights are, for example, Half the Sky Foundation, who have established a method for children living in institutions in China. Children who now have a mother and are being loved and cared for. The model has been so successful that it has been adopted by the Chinese state. Or the Mama Plus program in Russia, which ensures that children born to HIV-positive mothers can stay within their biological family, go to school and daycare, and not to be stigmatized by society. A model so successful that it now exists also in the Ukraine, Vietnam, and Cambodia. Well, I'm a mother of 3 and a grandmother of 2 little granddaughters. And His Majesty and I, like most parents, love and deeply care about our children. But we also want to find ways to help other children and parents. And that's why I'm here. We have gathered this morning to discuss the future of the world's children and how we collectively can ensure and promote integration of children's rights, like access to nutrition, health, education, safety, love, and happiness in the new set of the Universal Global Goals, the Sustainable Development Goals. At the same time, more children than ever before are victims of violence, including sexual abuse, conflicts, forced migration, and climate change. We keep talking about preserving the planet for the future generations, forgetting about today's children. There are still millions of children who grow up in extreme poverty in war-torn conditions, in unstable environments, and are subjected to some of the worst forms of human rights violations imaginable. Instead of playing and learning, they are trafficked as prostitutes, as child soldiers, and as migrant farmers. Instead of feeling loved and nurtured, they are robbed of their childhoods and their dignity. These experiences not only shape the people they become when they grow up, but also shape the world that we all live in. His Majesty and our family created the Global Child Forum as a platform helping to raise awareness of the rights of the children, to engage the private sector, and to inspire more people to take action. Through the power of partnerships, we hope to create environments where children feel safe, secure, and respected, where they can grow to reach their full potential. Opportunities for dialogue, like the meeting today, help us look forward as a global community and explore how we see children fit within a broader sustainable development strategy. Investing in children and youth is necessary to build pluralistic and inclusive societies, which is the foundation for sustainable development. And there is no better time to do this than now, as we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. My hope is that we can work together to put children at the center of the Sustainable Development Agenda. Thank you very much.
Your Majesty, thank you very much, and be sure that we will do what we can to champion your cause and to work closely together with the Global Child Forum, which is the co-convener of today's meeting, together with the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network. So we will absolutely be doing what we can to promote your wonderful work and your wonderful vision of making sure that children are at the center of the new Sustainable Development Agenda. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome our next speaker and participant, a great humanitarian leader, well known to many of you in many different ways for her humanitarian work and on the cover of many of your favorite magazines. This is a list I will never get on, the 50 most beautiful people in the world. That's absolutely true and beautiful, both in the sense of one of the world's leading supermodels and beautiful in the sense of all the work that you do. Let's welcome Alec Weck.
Wow, what an introduction. What do I say after that? Well, like my mother says, you know, she had 9 of us, so she definitely was the manager in that house. Get to the point. Well, I just would really like to say thank you so much, Columbia University, for having me in this platform and this amazing issue to be a part of. So, like Mother says, get to the point. Hello, everyone, and especially you students in the crowd. My name is Alec Weck, who don't know that, and I'm a model, Goodwill Ambassador for the UNHCR, which is United Nations High Commission for Refugees, and the ambassador for H&M Conscious Foundation. And I'm thrilled to be here to talk about education. I grew up in South Sudan before its independence. My father worked in Board of Education, so education was embedded in boys and girls in our family. But he emphasized, in particular, in girls' need of education. Because if you educate a girl, you'll educate a family, you'll educate a community and a society in general. The H&M Conscious Foundation was initiated by the founders of the Swedish company H&M, one of the largest fashion retailers since 2013. The person's family, founders, and majority owners of H&M have donated over $100 million, to be precise, $105 million of their private funding to the H&M Conscious Foundation. The mission of the foundation is to contribute to positive long-term change for people and communities, complementing H&M's sustainability work. The H&M Conscious Foundation put together an incredible advisory group consisting of people like Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Albert, Sir Richard Branson, and Professor Jeffrey Sachs, and myself, to identify what were the majority global challenges that the foundation could help to address. The foundation then used its website to ask both H&M employees and customers to decide which issues they wanted the foundation, to be engaged in. The issues they chose were strengthening women, clean water, and education. Today I'm here to talk about the global work H&M Conscious Foundation does in the education area to support early childhood development and education for the most vulnerable children in the world. I know firsthand about vulnerability. We were forced to flee our home to a refugee camp when I was just 9 years old. I've seen young girls pass away before 8th grade in childbirth when they're just kids, 12, 13, or 14. If they were in school, that would not be happening. In one word, if I wasn't educated to help guide me, I would never be standing here today telling my story. And that's the honest truth. H&M Conscious Foundation wants to contribute in giving the most vulnerable children the best possible start in life. Therefore, I've partnered with UNICEF and will contribute $9.3 million in a unique global flagship program for children, early education and development. Through the UNICEF Global Project, more than 73,000 children will benefit from a range of early childhood care and learning programs. 3 governments will help the developing national investment cases to highlight the importance of early childhood development. These cases will provide country-specific economic evidence for investment in ECD. And the first ever global report on early childhood development will be produced through the use of technology like an app. Will be providing real-time access to data. In addition of supporting UNICEF in its important work, the foundation will also support innovative projects at the ground level to spur the development of replicable and scalable models for children. I know this is the way to go. Growing up in South Sudan, in the Dinka tribe and the other tribes in the community, during the Civil War, I witnessed firsthand When you work in a community, instead of coming in and implementing other programs without community input, you will not succeed. When I visited the refugee camps in South Sudan a year ago, just a little after the independence took place, I saw so many children out of school and no school. Walking for 3 hours, just at the same age, like 8 or 9 years old, I was in South Sudan back in the late 80s, just to get to school, not to mention they have illnesses such as malaria and diarrhea. Results of drinking dirty water, contaminated water. I know education is the key, and together long-term positive change can come out. I am excited to tell you that later today, H&M Conscious Foundation will actually launch our first program not far from here, at a school in Harlem. It's a pilot project that will be going on for 3 years, and where we'll be working together with our friends at Earth Institute and Children's Health Fund. As a so-called celebrity model coming from South Sudan, now living in New York, I want to use my voice to advocate for children's rights to a first start in life, supporting universal access to early childhood development, and I'll continue committing to giving children a good start in life. As my father told me during that terrible civil war at home, you can lose nearly everything, but you can never lose your education and your knowledge. So thank you, and let's keep the positive conversation going. Thank you so much.
Alec, thank you so much for your leadership and also for giving us a hint of the wonderful announcements that will come later on in the program. We're very excited about the work that H&M Foundation will be partnering with us, and you'll meet Erwin Redlener and Karen Redlener, who are the wonderful heads of the Children's Health Fund, who are carrying out this phenomenal program. So we're really grateful. Now it's a very great privilege and pleasure to introduce our next speaker. I want to say in general that all of us in New York we're very proud New Yorkers, and we're very, very proud of our new mayor and his administration. We're also very proud of one of our great mayors. If Mayor Dinkins would just stand up for one moment. We're always in your hands, and it's so grateful to have you as a colleague also here at Columbia now, Mayor. When Mayor de Blasio ran for office last year, he described famously now the Dickensian vision of New York City as a tale of two cities, and a city that had become more and more divided by income and wealth and opportunity. And that message resonated strongly and brought the mayor to a great electoral victory. And he championed causes right at the center of our discussion, and indeed his flagship cause was that every child in this city should have the opportunity for pre-K education and for after school in middle school. And many people were skeptical. Many people said that can't be done, that's naive, and so forth. And Mayor de Blasio said something to me during the campaign, which I thought was very striking and important. He said, especially for us progressives, we have to show not only the vision, but we can really deliver. And so when it came to the question of delivery, Mayor de Blasio appointed a most remarkable deputy mayor who we have with us today, who he charged with actual delivery of this program. And that is Deputy Mayor Richard Berry, who brings remarkable energy and experience, a serial entrepreneur of not-for-profits all around children in many, many ways, and tremendous heart and experience to this cause. And I can tell you, we were there, Erwin and I were there from the first moment when Mayor de Blasio said, we're going to do it, getting these kids in school, and not just do it, but the first school year. And everybody remembers the headline when the school year opened this year, 51,000 kids in UPK from a fresh start at the beginning of the year. And Deputy Mayor, that is a great accomplishment of you and Mayor de Blasio. We're really thrilled and we're really honored to have you with us today. Please come up.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, first of all, thank you, Jeff, for that lovely introduction. Undeserved, but I'll take it. Hopefully somebody's recording for my mother later. I want to thank Jeff and also Erwin Redlener of the Children's Health Fund for your invitation to speak here today, and all of our distinguished guests. First of all, I want to say to Your Majesty, Queen Sylvia, those remarks were deeply inspiring and challenging for all of us. So thank you for those remarks. And also to Alec Weck, who I've seen many times, but normally just me looking at you. I want to thank you for your deeply inspiring personal story, a real powerful testament to the importance of education. I have to say I've never shared a stage with a queen and a supermodel. But if I was going to do it, I cannot think of a greater queen and a greater supermodel to do it with. So thank you all for being here. And I also want to acknowledge again one of my personal heroes, I think one of the greatest leaders this city has ever had, Mayor David Dinkins. So thank you. And to all of you who've traveled here from out of the city, from out of the country, allow me on behalf of my boss, Mayor Bill de Blasio, to say welcome to New York. I hope you have a wonderful time here. Spend your money in our hotels and restaurants, of course. And thank you all for being here. So I want to speak to you briefly, as we discussed, about the work that New York City is doing to advance the ideals that we are here to discuss today. We all know that America is built on a simple yet powerful idea. This is the idea that where you end up in life should not be determined by where you begin life. We call this idea the American dream, and it is in many ways the founding idea of our country. Now, we know that in America it has never been true, of course. It has always mattered to some extent where you've come from, the nationality of your parents, your skin color, your gender, your parents' education. Of course, these things have always mattered in America. But in many ways, the history of our country is the story of those things mattering less and less, year after year, generation after generation. You could describe American history as a story of American reality approaching the American dream. But as you've also heard, and as you all know, we live in difficult times. Here in America, as income inequality increases and as social mobility decreases, this is perhaps the first time in American history where you can say that we are in fact moving in the wrong direction, that the gap between the American dream and the American reality is widening, not decreasing. The amount of a child's income that will be determined by their parents' income, the likelihood that a poor child will grow up to be a poor adult and to have poor children. These are not just these are not just sort of socioeconomic problems. These ideas, these realities, they challenge the very fabric of our nation. As Jeff said, when Mayor de Blasio ran for office, he talked about the tale of two cities. And for me, it is a story that resonates personally. I grew up in one of those New York cities, in East New York, Brooklyn, which is a low-income community on the border of Queens, but was very lucky to attend high school at Stuyvesant, one of the finest public high schools in the country. And so growing up, I had a very real day-to-day experience of traveling on the 3 train over an hour from one New York City to the other New York City. One New York City where children lacked opportunity, where schools were failing, where the very air we breathed was different. Traveling to this other New York City, where not only were children expected to succeed, but where children had the opportunity to succeed. So the question for us is, how do we change course? I know it starts by refusing to accept that the current path is the only way forward. Here in New York City, under the leadership of our mayor, we have decided that the American dream cannot only be a myth. We have decided that the American dream is instead a blueprint. We are committed to giving our children, all of our children, the opportunity to live their dreams, to live their best lives. Over the past 9 months, I'm proud to say that we in New York City have been proving that government can make opportunity real. The key, of course, is leadership, and why it's so important to have so many of the amazing, important people in this room here. Early in this campaign, as you heard, the mayor made an audacious promise. He promised that every 4-year-old in New York City would have access to free, full-day, high-quality pre-kindergarten education within 2 years. And that every middle school student in New York City would have access to free, high-quality after-school education. The pundits, the political class, and the press all dismissed this idea. He was called famously not serious. It was said that these ideas were non-starters. And yet, here we are. As Jeff said, this April, well, he didn't say this, but this April, after a spirited public debate, I will call it, we were able to secure $300 million a year in funding, example, for pre-kindergarten. And from that April to today, we went from a system serving 20,000 children in full-day pre-kindergarten to well over 50,000 children in full-day pre-kindergarten. We've hired and trained over 1,000 new teachers. We've inspected nearly 2,000 schools and community center. We built a tremendous apparatus to go out into the community to find families with 4-year-olds and to help them find a center or a pre-kindergarten program that is right for them. And we are not done. Next year, our plan is to go from that 53,000 to over 70,000 children in this program to make sure that every 4-year-old has access to this important platform on the path to a lifelong learning. And again, it all starts with leadership. We have a mayor who realizes that in spite of the challenges and hard work it takes to make a goal like this a reality, pre-K for all truly is a win-win for children, families, and the city's future. Study after study shows that high-quality pre-kindergarten can significantly impact a child's chances of both short-term and long-term success. But the benefits are not only educational for those children, they're economic benefits for the family for the family as well. Over the course of a 180-day school year, a family would save more on childcare than the cost of a semester's tuition at the City University of New York. The city's Department of Education also expects to see cost savings of up to $60 million by the time this cohort graduates high school. And these savings will be generated by things such as reduced special education costs, fewer students repeating grades, lower teacher turnover and absenteeism, and reduced spending on security, health, and mental health services. But of course, as I said before, it's not just about education even, it's certainly not just about dollars and cents. It is about having a fundamentally different relationship with our children and our families. It is about making a promise that indeed, in New York, where you start life will not determine where you end life. Another example of where we're making opportunity happen for our children is the vast expansion of after-school programs for middle school students. We know that middle school is a difficult time for children, and it is crucial that we give them all a chance to discover what makes them tick, to get them excited about their learning and how to express themselves. We are investing over $140 million this year to create 40,000 new middle school seats in after-school programs. And next year we'll be investing $190 million to serve 50,000 new students. That'll be over 100,000 middle school students who have free, high-quality after-school programs in New York City. Again, it's hard to overstate the importance of this. For one thing, of course, after school extends the educational day. More hours means more opportunities to learn. But it's especially important for those children who are struggling in school, who maybe don't feel comfortable in the classroom studying math and English, who maybe have never had a chance to experience the true joy of learning, to know what it feels like to master something. By exposing children to arts, music, and drama, you might find that spark that ignites that children's love of learning. These are just two of the many initiatives we're working on. I know that later you're going to hear from Erwin and Karen about this amazing initiative with H&M in Harlem. This is reflective of another initiative of the mayor's, community schools. Our administration has committed itself to developing 100 new community schools before the end of the term. And for those of you who don't know what a community school is, it is the idea that children who come to school hungry, who come to school depressed, who come to school unable to see the blackboard because they lack vision care, or who are constantly missing school because of health issues or because of unstable housing because they're moving around a lot, that those children will never be able to learn if they don't have the opportunity to come to school ready to learn. And so in our community schools, we connect schools with the resources that are designed to meet those children's needs. I could go on, but the point I want to make to you is that change is truly possible. It's possible when you make your priorities clear. It's possible when you make those priorities about children. And it's possible when you really, truly weave the apparatus of government together on behalf of children. When you do that, your campaign promises become your governing priorities. And suddenly, naysayers go from, "You'll never be able to do that," to saying, "How did you do that?" And when you succeed, the bar is raised, and there is a new status quo. We are on our way to establishing a new status quo for our young people in the city, and along the way, with partners like you, we hope to provide an example for other cities around the country and around the globe. Thank you so much.
Richard, thank you, and please thank the mayor for all the wonderful work that you're doing, and be assured that we're standing with you and eager to help in every way that we can. We are so blessed with the leaders in this room that I'm going to add one to our program, if I could briefly, because we're very lucky to have a leader of the Millennium Development Goal era who has shown what can be accomplished. We have two actually coming up, so, but one who has shown what can be accomplished in a record-breaking pace and depth on behalf of children, and that is the very esteemed and world-recognized Minister of Health of Rwanda, who's here with us. I'm going to ask you out of the program, Minister Agnes Binawahu, who is also professor of health, has been at Harvard and Dartmouth, and is a recognized leader in public health. But under her leadership, Rwanda has had one of the fastest, perhaps the fastest ever decline of child mortality rates. And this is a remarkable accomplishment, and we're so happy that you're here. I wonder if I could ask you to say a few words on how you did it and how you can inspire others to do it as well. Agnes.
Your Majesty and everybody here, good morning. So how we did it, it was just a matter of goodwill. We all know what we have to do. We all know what works, Your Majesty. It's just a matter to decide we are going to do it. Just do it. I don't want to say who said it, but we just did it. So, first of all, we have to agree that children is our future. In Africa, in Asia, is the majority of our people. And even now, with what we did it with great solidarity. We have Gavi here, I love them. We have the children vaccinated for 10 vaccines and girls for 11, fully. The last one was rotavirus introduced, before it was HPV. 90% of our kids are vaccinated fully for 11 vaccines, for girls 10, for boys. So we have universal coverage of bed nets. The first killer was malaria. We doesn't have to forget that. PMTCT, this university have done great for that. We have universal coverage for PMTCT. And our rate of transmission, the two last year, was less than 2%. Meaning poverty is not a fatality. Meaning do the maximum with each and every opportunity you have. Make it work together, find the good partners, think step by step what are the bottlenecks and break them. Be bottleneck breakers and you'll reach your way. And now we are tackling early child development. And I'm a pediatrician, I'm a neonatologist, so I really want, under the leadership of our First Lady, she's our champion in that, we put everything under 5 in early child development. Pregnancy, when the woman discovers it, she enters in early child development program. The 4 antenatal clinic, early child development. Safe delivery, early child development. The 28 days that are so fragile, where we lose the maximum of baby, we put that in early child development. The 42 days, the long neonatal period, early child development. Now we bring the father, the community around that child. We are sure that we are going to reach the next frontier of family cohesion, of community cohesion, on good governance to create a governance that is child-friendly at local level, where people are living. So this is our program. We try always to be ahead of the game and to do good for the most vulnerable of our society. I thank our partners because we never do that alone. And I thank the academic world who teach us a lot how to do that with rigor, how to do that with persistency, and never forget, everything is about political will. Money is not the big obstacle. It's what you do with money that matters. Better you have $1, use it with purpose, than 1 million spoiled. Thank you very much for the children of the world.
Okay, you've heard it. Be bottleneck breakers and just do it. It's amazing what can be accomplished. And we have another world-leading just do it leader with us, a wonderful, remarkable leader who's carrying on her shoulders right now a huge amount of the task of getting us through 2015 with a coherent, consistent, bold agenda. And she's doing it beautifully. When we do have our 10 Sustainable Development Goals next year, we'll remember what Amina Mohammed, our next speaker, has brought We know her as a leader for many causes and many efforts over the years. She has been a pioneer in expanding education to children in need in many different contexts. When Nigeria had the opportunity to invest its funds from the savings on debt relief, Amina Mohammed was entrusted by the president with organizing that effort, and she did it absolutely brilliantly and created, in a country of enormous complexity, programs that enabled money at the center to reach right down to the local communities. And so when Secretary General Ban Ki-moon faced these three big agendas coming up in 2015, it was natural that he turned to Amina Mohammed as Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations as the coordinator of the 2015 agenda. We thank you for your leadership. I told her we've been watching her speak all week in countless forms. She's doing an absolutely brilliant job and inspiring the world to a coherent and bold agenda next year. Amina.
Wow, okay. This is really setting me up for tall ambition. Her Majesty, so graceful and committed to service. I think this is a brilliant way of us showing that when we have the possibilities, what we can do with them, and we thank you for that. Excellencies, many colleagues and friends here, and I'd like to say especially the young people here. I had the privilege 2 years ago of just teaching a small number of you when we talked about policy to practice, what it is to say it and then how we do it. And that was a considerable honor for me, because I was really hearing from young people what their expectations were, their understanding. And when I think about the post-2015, this is about us giving you the baton. You'll be carrying the burden. You'll be running with it. It's your vision and your energy that we need for post-2015. So thank you for making the time to join us here. Of course, thank you, the Global Child Forum, and EI, especially Jeff and my sister Joanna. Thank you very much for making sure that I'm here across town in a crazy GA week. We are actually on the cusp of something quite incredible and transformational. We've been speaking in UN Speak for so long that I think we're almost forgetting about the opportunity of post-2015, that we will move from just talking about north to south on halving poverty or by percentages or by numbers, to a sustainable development agenda that says we're going to eradicate it in the next 15 years. That's quite incredible if we really do put all the efforts behind it and mean what we say. The promises we make, we deliver on. That's one transformation, that for a universal agenda, no one will be left behind, and we have the means to do it. The second is we're not going to talk about little pots of money or percentages of a whole. We're actually going to look at the whole and see how we can unlock the resources we know we have in this world to make good on an agenda that's not charity. It's what we need to respond to the huge challenges and the complexities that we have in the world today. So unlocking resources will be the next transformation in the way in which governments and the world does business. The last and not least, and we've seen people march to it this week, the largest march ever in New York, is about climate change. And finally, we've gone past all the skepticism and all the naysayers to understand and realize that this is a very big reality, and without which we can't do anything if we don't have that ambitious agreement that we sign on to at the end of 2015. All of this, of course, in the outside world is one and the same thing. It's only in the corridors of the UN that we cross T's and dot I's. So the transformation will be to get those cross T's and dot I's to mean something real in the life of people. As we come to speak about children, I'm a Nigerian mother of 6 children. And in the context of being an African woman, and Agnes will tell us this, the children in your street, the children in your community, the children in the society are actually yours. We don't see them differently. When someone says they've lost a child down the road, it's your loss, it's very personal. And so for us, children are about our future. Something's gone very wrong. Over the years, something has gone very wrong because we're losing that as we look at the indices around the world, particularly in my continent, of what has happened to children. While I speak about that, when the world talks to what's happened to the girls of Chibok, and this is personal to me because it's a region I come from. These are girls who went to school a couple of hours away when I went to primary school. What really went wrong? Because I had an education, I'm standing up before you in the United Nations, Assistant Secretary General. What happened? What chance, what investments did we stop making in our children, in our young people, that at 14, 15, 16, one day they become spoils of war? We have to ask that question. It's not long ago. I'm still here, and I can tell you I'm still under 60. So it wasn't long ago that this happened. And we really need to think that when we're talking about our agenda. I struggle every single day. I went home for summer, and people ask me, did you have a nice summer vacation? Of course I did. I went home to my children and my community. But I went home to a country that we're faced with terrorism, and we were faced with Ebola. So I struggle every day to find a reason to come back to New York to continue to help shape the next development agenda. And what's the reason I should come back? Because like Agnes, I would love to be at home doing the things that we need to do, just doing them. And sometimes it's a struggle when we speak with 193, 197 countries to find a reason to get that ambitious agenda that everyone says, as the Deputy Mayor, it's impossible. And I think that this is really, for me, an important thing. Why do I come back? Well, we have a Swedish Deputy Secretary General. And what he tells us is that his years of experience in the United Nations, we are in a world of what it should be and a world as it is. And our job is try to bring the two closer together. How can we close that gap? And that's exactly why I come back and why we spent the last 18 months trying to have a bold and ambitious agenda that includes everyone. That we've managed to help member states come to a conclusion of very many goals and targets, but have the key elements of what is ambition and transformative. There's nothing in what the countries that have presented with 2 weeks ago presented that. There's nothing lacking. Even in the finance framework, they're saying everything that's right. But how do we turn it into a reality? How do we make that a promise that we don't keep in the drawer, that we deliver to people and that we make a real difference in people's lives? Well, I can say that we've got a good start. We have that ambitious set because we've remembered that the MDGs with 460 odd days to go is unfinished business. It's also many, many lessons learned about what works, and we can see Gavi here, great partner, what we've done on immunization and saving children's lives. But as I said just earlier, it wasn't just about the health, it's the knowledge of those systems and the strategies that they use to reach our children that are being used in other sectors. So we learned many, many things with the MDGs, and we hope that we carry those forward to make the next ambition very real, that we have this foundation that we can sit on. But I want us to underscore just what Agnes has just said. It's not just about the money. I had $1 billion a year to spend on doing something with the MDGs. And I have a difficult country. We had many governance challenges. I thought that was the big one. So I was trying to protect this money, and nobody should steal it because it's for poor people. And what happened to me? I spent a year protecting money and not just doing it. And what did that mean? That meant that people, I couldn't explain to Nigerians why I still had $1 billion in the bank account and they hadn't had it affected in their lives. But this was about governance. It was about systems, capacities to do the job, the skill sets that you really needed to plan and to get that money to the local level. And so it's the partnerships that we had with Jeff and his team here in EI that helped make that happen, but investments in our own people, in our own sectors too, that made it happen. Good news is that there are many things that we've learned from. Ebola today is not such a problem in Nigeria because we learned from what the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation did in helping us with polio and putting strategies around that we could then help mitigate what we've got right now. So we do have to get it right. Over the next year, we've got a really big challenge of trying to make this real. We need your voices. As we've heard here, we do know what to do. We have the best practice. We've been Petri dishes in a laboratory for long enough. Right now it's about scale, it's about everyone, it's about leaving no one behind. It's about getting the data right and making that an absolute right that we have baseline. It's about partnerships, building on the ones that have worked to see how we can go to scale and make it happen. It's about actually thinking about how we can reach for the moon. Because only when we have that ambition do we know that even if we fall to the stars, that's okay, but nothing less for the people of the world today, because there are so many in need. We're in a very luxurious little part of New York in the world, but out there, people need us to stand up and be counted, and that's what the United Nations intends to do. That's the leadership of the Secretary General, which will take what he has. He will lead, he will be ambitious, he will do what is right for people and planet. And for that, I thank you for the opportunity of us just reinforcing the message that we can do it. Thank you.
See, this is like a baseball team where every batter comes up and hits a home run. It's really remarkable, and we have another home run hitter that I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce, another world leader who is at the center of this agenda and is carrying it with tremendous energy and inspiration. Irina Bokova is the Director General of UNESCO, and of course UNESCO is our world-leading organization on education, science, and culture. And Irina comes to that challenge with wonderful experience and knowledge as in many capacities, including Foreign Minister of Bulgaria and a key architect of European integration. And from there, she has become Director General of UNESCO and energized UNESCO, putting it into the forefront of many of the greatest challenges in the world, of course, including education, including finding the ways to mutual respect across cultures, safety of journalism, and in a wonderful initiative that I'm so pleased to be part of, bringing broadband and all of the possibilities of information technology to the cause of development in a remarkable initiative called the Broadband Commission. So we are really grateful, Irina, that you're here and honoring us, but we're especially grateful for all your leadership. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Jeff, for your very kind presentation. And let me first turn to Your Majesty to say how important this forum is. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for this initiative. Thank you to your family. Because I do believe that nowadays children embody everything that we at UNESCO and the United Nations we want to achieve when we speak about sustainable development. I'm very grateful to the Columbia University, to Earth Institute, to Jeff, to Joanna, good friends and partners, all the students and faculty staff being here, the Deputy Mayor of New York. When I was listening to him, I remember a personal story. When I spent 25 years ago in the University of Maryland, I had to change my New York driver's license to the Maryland driver's license. I went there, and the officer looked at my New York driver's license and said, "Oh, young lady," it was 25 years ago, he said, "Oh, young lady, if you can do it in New York, you can do it anywhere." So I think if New York can do it indeed, it's a wonderful also inspiration for all of us to do it. And what the Minister of Health of Rwanda, another telling example of how we can do it when we have a political will, the right resources, and put the right resources into work, it can be done. And I think what we're here gathered today is to see indeed how we can do it. And this is all the effort that we are making at UNESCO, wider at the United Nations, what my wonderful friend Amina Mohamed just explained, all the effort of the Secretary General and of the United Nations to do the unfinished business of the Millennium Development Goals and to move forward to something which is universal, long-term, with the very concrete objectives and the very concrete targets. And I think one of the most important is to end by 2030 the extreme poverty in the world and to move the world into a different human-centered development. And I think what we're doing now is exactly this. And I think children are embodying this human-centered target and objective that we want to do. I was recently, and I turn to Alec because I recently visited South Sudan with another champion humanist, I would say, Forrest Whitaker, the special envoy of UNESCO for children in conflict, and Leila Zeregui, the special representative of the Secretary General for Children in Conflict. We visited camps of the internally displaced person, and I think I better understand now, Alec, what you were talking about when you said that South Sudan, which is a country with a huge, I would say, problems, and also to some extent embodies the ability of the United Nations, of the international community, to accompany a country getting out of poverty, an independent country, and move forward with a lot of challenges of multicultural, multi-ethnic society, with children soldiers, with internally displaced persons. And I think I do understand much better what you are saying, and I like to appreciate your advocacy and your role in the world. And we are here to talk about, I wish I was listening, I wish all the delegations were here today, because this is precisely what is the debate in the United Nations General Assembly. This is precisely what we want to achieve when we talk about Sustainable Development Goals. We want to do education, a inclusive, quality education, a lifelong learning experience for all. We want this to be the guiding principle of human development for the future, to unleash the potential of human ingenuity, what the Deputy Mayor was saying, because education is probably the most powerful instrument of social mobility, so that if you are born a poor child in a distant rural community, or if you are born a girl, you are not destined, as Nelson Mandela was saying in his Nobel Prize, when he received the Nobel Prize speech, he said, poverty is not a destiny. You can get out of poverty, and you should not be there when you were born. You have to have a chance, an opportunity to move. And this is where I believe the interlinkages between the development goals stand. And once again, I turn to the issues of children. It is about giving the right and chance, a right education and the chance to children to learn, to be educated. You have to link it with health also. This is where our global monitoring report this year stands, to put the education within the broader framework of other development goals, of health, of water, clean water and sanitation, of poverty eradication, and all the other related debates. And let me just probably say a few words more about early childhood care and education, what Your Majesty also were mentioning. I would like to remind that this is the first goal, one of the goals of the Millennium Development Goal, when we adopted in Dakar the 6th in the year 2000 at the major conference, the Education for All Millennium Development Goal, then translated, adopted by the United Nations. Early childhood care and education was among those, because more and more evidence we have nowadays that it is critical for the future development of a human being. And we did a global monitoring report in 2005. We made a major conference, World Conference in 2010 on early childhood care and education. Many countries already have adopted policies. It's important to have this embedded into national policies. It is not just one development project, as the Minister of Health of Rwanda was saying. We have to make systems, systems that are sustainable, systems that work. And now we have in the world already, in the developing countries, 30 countries which have such systems, but only 18% of African countries have it. We have to do more so that this critical period is very much embedded in what we want to do. And then, of course, when we draft and we craft our future sustainable development goals, we need to invest in these systems. We need to heavily invest in education, in learning. And it is not just international aid, it's mobilizing national, local resources. There are wonderful examples of having more budgets, of having linkages between the two of us in the United Nations working ever better in order to make this happen. And I think we are on a good track. I think we have to look at the good examples also. It can be done indeed, and Rwanda is one of those examples. Many countries have introduced compulsory free education. Enrollment has doubled in these countries. They have taken other measures, combining nutrition and education in schooling, supporting local communities, working also with local religious community leaders, putting the girl child in the focus of some of these development efforts. And recently we had a conference, and it was very interesting because we all agreed around the vision of sustainability. And I think sometimes that the face of a sustainability effort should be a 10-year-old girl in some developing country, in a rural community. A 10-year-old girl who attends school, who is not given to marriage, who is not pregnant, who is not giving birth at the age of 11, 12, 13, who continues to go into school. Then she moves into the secondary school. She has a future. She has also a vision about contributing to her family, to her community. We have to target this 10-year-old girl. How to support her, I think, embodies also all the efforts that we are here gathered today. And I would like to thank, of course, once again, Your Majesty, to thank Sweden, because Sweden is a wonderful partner and an example of such vision of sustainable development, and all of you for coming and sharing this understanding. And of course, Columbia University, the Earth Institute, a wonderful partner of us, of UNESCO, of the United Nations, so close to this vision, humanistic, I would say, vision of human development. Thank you.